Ah, yes. Good evening, guys. Casper here, aka Uselink, which I go by on Twitter and YouTube. Um, yeah, just a quick dive into the markets here before we open in roughly 1 hour. The past two market days, that was Thursday and Friday, heavily selling across the board, basically. So we will just see if we are where we are in time, into what resistance and all that. And yeah, just make a little short, like 10-minute video. So if you like the content, like, subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, and the Substack. So I think we'll start off straight off the bat here with I think we want to go with the QQQ here. You can see here the QQQ, we have had 3 weeks worth of heavy selling, and we are basically down. How much are we down since? Everyone is bearish right now. Everyone is bearish. I know. Where the hell is there is? Excuse me for my language. So we're down roughly 10%. Just gonna check here the previous pullback, 8% there. What do we have here? We had also roughly 10%. Okay, cool. So again, 10% seems to be the pullback, that we're getting each time before we go higher. I will say this though, we've had 3 mega red candles. Last time we had that, we were in an ABC, excuse me, 1 to 5 elliott wave correction before we went higher. But we are at major golden support. We didn't really touch there, but we did definitely touch here this Friday. This goes back to the beginning of 2023. So horizontal support and trendline support, we should see buyers step in here. Yes, I know everyone is bearish with the war and all that good stuff. Well, not good stuff, but you know what I mean. But again, we are at support. So typically you see buyers step in here, unless, if we start to drop down here this week, let's say, that's opens up potentially a lot of bad things here. We're not making any major low lows at that point, but again, you can see that, again, breaking that uptrend is never a good thing to see. If that happens, I'm pretty confident that we at some point in time will touch roughly here, the 410 level. The SPY here, again, also broke a huge rising wedge. And this red trend line here is a multi-decade long trend line. It goes back to the peak of the dot-com bubble. You can see the dot-com there into there, and we actually pierced it very, very briefly here, like a month ago, when we came back down through the wedge and through the support. That's never, ever a good thing to see. But again, here, nothing goes down in a straight line. There are still dip buyers. We still have, minor support, and we still haven't made any major low lows. So it's still okay. We're still in an uptrend. We can add the 30 weekly moving average here, still sliding up. But again, losing that wedge pattern, never good. If we have held here and bounced, cool. That would have been blow off top kind of move here. But for now, it definitely looks, a bit iffy here. But again, I think we are overdone here to some degree, especially with everyone being so bearish. Maybe they're right, but usually when you have everyone on the same side of the coin, it goes in the other way, The masses are almost never correct. What else should we check into? I want to check into silver here. Again, I want to show you the past 3 weeks for silver. Mega red day, mega red week, and now we actually had a green week last week, compared to the QQQ, which was a deep red candle as well. So last week, surprisingly, when we had all that selling going into the 2 days before the week closed, silver actually did all right. That's pretty cool. So for now, we actually have a false breakdown from this bullish flag here. And yeah, again, we want to clear roughly, I think it's 32 here. That is when the magic happens. But first, we need to get above that pivot point there, which is, of course, roughly the $30 level, right? The $30 we want to get back above. And yeah, let's see here. don't mind these very small trend lines here, smaller time frame trend lines. We are still looking good. A great week, closing at all-time highs for the week at $2,440. This is the spot price, not the futures. I think the futures are closing higher, no? I don't know. I can't remember. But a great week for gold. And yes, when you have all that uncertainty, gold is obviously the safe play. So again, gold is rising on the background of fear, but also gold is doing well because the dollar is getting decimated. Especially on Friday here, we can take a look at the dollar here briefly. You can see here, this is the weekly candle. Basically, ever since we started to break down from this rail, you can see we have a clone here, a parallel. Basically, if you take, this is the main, you have the low there, there, and there, false breakdown here, and then you rally, then you can actually copy, clone that one, add it to the low of it here, and then you have a rail. So basically you have the inner, which is the most significant, and then you have like the parallel outer, and then we broke that here down from 105, which also is a huge, horizontal level there. You can see, it says 104.7, but again, close to 105. So we broke down, and again, we broke down again here heavily there. So the Dixie here is definitely getting killed. And if we zoom out here, potentially we're about to roll over. It's not a complete, certainty that the Dixie is going down. You still have this like a squeezing point coming in here. So therefore, I'm expecting the Dixies to hit roughly, 102 here. It also lines up roughly with the lows over there. So I'm guessing we will see support here at some point in time. Maybe not this week, but again, within a few weeks, that is definitely in the cards for the Dixie. So yeah, crude oil is also sitting at major support here. Again, it had was it 2 days in a row where it went down heavily. You can basically see here that the USD WTI followed, the QQQ, with 3 mega red candles down. So we are at horizontal support here. Excuse me, we are at support here within this overall squeezing. But the more it looks like here, the more it wants to break down, right? If it breaks down here of roughly, roughly 72, 73, I'm guessing we're going to 64 at least, which is also the low over here roughly. But again, with the conflict in the Middle East with Iran and all that, again, we are very, involved in countries that are producing and transporting a ton of oil. So again, if things gets really, really bad down there, you could actually see oil just go through the roof again. Until we see that, again, we don't want to make a call that we're going to go V-shaped to 100 here. But again, that could happen if things get insanely nasty down there. And obviously, we don't want to see that. Because if that happens, a lot of bad things is going on. Rates here, you can see here, this was actually on, you can see the dump here. We had 5 days in a row ever since we lost that blue rail. You can actually see how clear it is. Ever since we lost that rail, they have just been dumping, bonds basically. Excuse me, buying into bonds basically. This is the rates going down, so they bought the TLT and so on. And this is usually like, big fear. You can see when you have big drops in the rates, that is usually when there's a lot of fear in the market. The only funny, if you can call it that, thing is that the Dixie didn't participate, but that was on the backbone of a very, very disastrous jobs numbers report that came out Friday. However, the rates here are at support. So I'm guessing we're seeing a bounce here for this week here at roughly 3.8. If we see a lot of fear still, this will go down into, roughly 3.3. So yeah, definitely a big breakdown there, but at shorter term support of this pivot low here. So yeah, what else could we dive into? Could we check out some Bitcoin here? We need to go to the daily, I guess. I'm preparing like a Bitcoin video where I'm talking about the bullish side and the negative side of Bitcoin. If you have been following me and you've seen some of my videos, I am still in the camp until proven otherwise that this, zooming out the past 10 years roughly, this fractal is basically identical more or less to the Amazon fractal leading up to the dot-com bubble. And that's when it lost, 95% of its value. So until this changes, I am in the camp that Bitcoin and the crypto space needs a big cleansing before, they can rise again. Just like we saw during the dot-com bubble, we had the internet coming out, and that was just a whole new game changer. And I'm thinking, that the crypto will be some of the same, but with all new tech, you need a boom and bust cycle, and then you go. We shall see, right or wrong. Copper here, I want to discuss copper just a bit. It hit our target at $5. It overshot a bit. Ever since we left that $4 level, we were hugely bullish on copper, with the target being up here at 5. And then we've just come down really, really hard, a lot quicker and steeper than what I would have anticipated. We saw the bounce there, which we talked about on the Substack, but again, it was just a brief rally and then we came down. So this is not good news, having copper correcting this much. Usually when that happens, that's, when you're seeing a slowdown in the markets. Same thing as over here, you saw a huge slowdown. Obviously, the March 2020 madness there. And what else? We can go back to the dot-com bubble. Same thing applies. This was just a very bad, time for the economy. I also want to show here, actually, don't mind these lines up here, but just going to check that everything's fine here. Yeah, it is cool. So this to me, is actually a very similar fractal. You have this pattern here, almost identical to this on a smaller time frame, and height, huge drop, and then you're actually coming in, making a marginal higher high, and then you are going to get murdered. This is, roughly, basically, potentially the same, and that is what's happening here. This is on the backbone of the global financial crisis. So maybe we are in for like a deep, a long, sideways to down action here for the next 2 years for copper. Who knows? The fractal is definitely there. What else could we dive into? We are going to check in on some ETFs. Yes, we are. SIL, this is the silver miners. Huge resistance here at roughly 50, which I expect is where we're going. Could we see a detour? Yes, and then we go, obviously. But again, the overall trajectory is to 50 and then a deepish pullback, and then we go. I'm expecting big time, gains for silver and gold here. And yeah, the miners has broken out of that 3-4 year double rail, which is good. We made a massively higher high here on the weekly. Again, the weekly is also coming up, so we are definitely in a stage 2 uptrend. So again, higher highs and higher lows seems to be the name of the game here for SIL. SILJ, same thing. We broke that internally, and yeah, we definitely have a squeeze coming in here, and I'm expecting something like that. Not this low, by the way, but something like this. And yeah, overall, yes, we had a bad week. We've had 3 really bad weeks, but overall, major breakout, consolidating okay-ish. The only downside is we have 3 marginal higher highs, which usually leads that we're going down to the low of that first higher low right here. So I'm expecting actually SILJ to go down to 10.7, which is only in quotes like a 10, what's that? 5% drop. Not the worst, right? That's piece of cake. The GDX is basically sitting at, potentially major breakouts, but usually we get a little tease and we come in and then, oh, it's game over, and then we go, right? We usually see that little bit of a dribble here, and then we go higher. The GDXJ is peaking out above here. Again, not completely in love with this short-term stuff here. That's usually a spell that we're going into to 40 here. We are now at 44 basically, so a $10 drop before we then go higher. This, by the way, is also something that we see right now on the uranium, potentially. This fractal here, you have these four, lumps here, and then you get down to roughly the lows here, right? And then you go on a mega move. I want to show you that fractal on the URA. It has happened 2 times in the past 5 years. You can see over here you had these 4 lumps coming down into the lows of the first one, and then you rally. And where are we now? Kind of similar, but on a larger time frame and a larger fractal. So again, you have these 4 lumps here. You're coming down to the low, to the first, that one, and then you boom, you blast higher. So will it happen again? I don't know, but it's definitely worth the watch there for URA. But back to the weekly performance. What a nasty weekly candle. Basically I want to show you where it all turned really south for the uranium. We were watching this range here, and when we broke there, I was extremely happy, extremely bullish to see that. And we saw some smaller candles. Okay, fair enough. But then we had the Wednesday on, when was that? Wednesday, the 17th of July. That's when everything got murdered and we started to correct heavily, breaking down from the golden there, retesting, and then just completely puke. Potentially we have the 1 to 5 elliott wave correction already, so we are at support, which is also something that we cover, that the $24 level here, basically 24 to 24.5 is just major support, and we should see some buying coming in here. Again, very difficult to call these when there is so much fear in the market. Usually I'm always at that point in time that the masses are wrong, but again, we shall see. We shall definitely see. What else should we have a look at here? I'm just spitballing. No, these hasn't moved. I guess that's it, guys. I don't want to spend more of your time. I think we should, before you go, I think we should look into the gold to silver ratio. I have a clean chart here, by the way. So you can see here that we are actually, at the highest of the retest levels. There's a lot of different trend lines that you can draw here, but we're basically retesting now. You can also see here if we, that we are basically at the highs of that retest of that, huge triangle pennant breaking down, retesting here. And that's also why, if that happens, if we are really starting to go south here, gold and silver, especially silver, will do big things. I don't see this in the cards. What I'm about to say here is that if we are to get back above and then rally, a lot of bad things is going to happen, not only in precious metals, but in the QQQ rates, everything. This is huge fear in the markets. This was back in March 2020, right? So every time we have these mega rallies, this was back in 2008, if that happens, things are really grim and you have liquidity issues. But I'm in the camp that this was, this move here, we came down, we squeezed, we came down, we squeezed, and we are rolling over. I've done multiple videos on that. So until that is negated, basically getting above and then rally, that is my take, that silver is about to go on a beautiful move here, basically outperforming gold by 100%. So yeah, that has incredible numbers there. So that's it, guys. Again, 1 hour until the open. I'm not going to predict anything here. I'm not watching any news, as you know, so I don't know what's happening. I'm just, reading a tiny bit of things here on Twitter and so on, that the drums are definitely between, is it Israel and Iraq, I think, or Iran. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Have an amazing day, guys, and hopefully we'll have a more green week. We'll see. Cheers, guys. Bye.